Hey, welcome. Today we're doing a Giscours vertical tasting. I'm Trent.
And I'm Jason, and we're two guys on a wine journey. We're unfiltered and unapologetically unprofessional, and we are the Wind Up Podcast. And so today we're going to start off with thoughts of the week before we get into the Giscours. I need to pronounce it right. Yeah. And I wanted to share my thought of the week, which was around international wine and hopefully in line with the content that we've got today. I was looking on the news, Sky News, on the 21st of July, they released an article about CWT.
What's that?
Have you heard about CWT? You haven't heard anything about it. And I love these little code names that are popping up. So CWT sounds for Chinese Wine Trial.
Okay, like the IWT.
Like exactly. The link is Penfolds.
Yeah.
Penfolds are starting up a new trial with Chinese grapes. It's called the CWT 521, and it's going to be a blend of Cab Sav and some grapes particularly famous or good within the Chinese region. Marselan, I've never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
No.
Apparently, it's a cross between a Cab Sav and a Grenache.
Yeah.
And they're making it from regions in Shangri-La and Ningxia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And I'm not aware of any wines from China, to be honest. So this is exciting. I'm so curious what it's going to be like. And knowing Penfolds and the quality of wines they make, I'm hoping that it's going to be good.
I think there's a lot of pressure there as well, because I know with a lot of the kind of Bordeaux wineries, they try to do something with the Chinese, given that strong demand from the Chinese coming through before. But again, I haven't heard anything that's actually good that's
successful.
Come out of there.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be interesting again now with Penfolds kind of going to that foray and see if anything comes through with this CWT trial.
Well, they're always trying something's new. RWT you mentioned was a trial, and then you can see.
We're waiting for the PWT, the Philippines wine trial, is it?
Philippines.
No,
I might speak to what's his name, Peter Gago, and suggest that. I'm curious. It's probably going to be more mangoes as opposed to grapes, but we'll see. But it's CWT 521. 521 represents the 5 regions where the grapes are sourced from, and 21 represents the vintage. And to me, I think coming from Australia, we know that historically China has been a great market for us. The relationship needs to build stronger, and I think this will improve the ties between us.
Yeah.
More importantly, I just want to try the wine. Wine from China and the grapes there, it's something new, and it's what we're about. We want to try something new.
Yeah, I find it intriguing. You get that bottle of wine. Normally, it'll say made in China now.
Yeah. And what does that mean? But if the quality and the taste is amazing, wow, that would be great.
Yeah, sounds good.
So that was my thought of the week. What about you?
So my thought of the week was while I was doing a bit of research around Chateau Giscours, I was coming across a few podcasts, a few YouTube videos as well. And one of the things that kind of caught my attention was listening to Alexander Van Beek, who's the managing director of Chateau Giscours. And he was doing an interview, and he started to talk about tannins.
Yes.
And then when he talked about tannins, he talked about the analogy around tannins is similar to pixels. So not Pixel, the Google phone, but pixel in terms of TVs. You know, you talk about high definition.
Resolution on the screen. Okay, I want to hear this.
And then that kind of makes sense. So I think when you say high def, I think 1080p is a good one, or 2060, whatever.
1080p used to be the standard, yes.
Standard 1080p, high definition pixels for TV. I talk about those kind of silky fine tannins. And I think that like a really clear, smooth picture is like the very kind of clear, smooth wine. And then you have the ones that are a bit slightly harsher, not as silky, which is like the standard def, the 720p type of wines. And then if you really go even harsher than that, I think about the old days before we even had the kind of rabbit ear antennas, and you had the snow coming through and going through as well, and then it's filled out. That's kind of like the tannins on your tongue.
That's a great example. Yeah. I get that. It's the square jagged edges, and then as you get higher in resolution, it smoothens everything out. You don't see those square pixels everywhere.
When I heard that, had that light bulb moment that sometimes I do and go, hang on, that really makes sense. Maybe coming from slightly like from a tech background, it goes, I get a high def tannins.
And for us younger people, I guess we're not really that young, but the example around pixels probably wasn't there 20, 30 years ago, but now I think a lot of people would understand that. Great representation.
Maybe for the even older generation, it's more. It was black and white, and now it's color. I don't know. Is that right? No, I don't know.
You were stretching it.
Going one too far.
Stick with the pixels. It was a good example. Oh, fantastic! I'm going to use that going forward.
Yeah.
1080p when we taste a wine. That's a descriptor.
Yeah, maybe you can use that today.
4K, absolutely.
Okay, so what have you been drinking, Jason?
So things that we've been drinking, and I feel like I talk about my brother-in-law quite a lot. Thank you to my brother-in-law.
You got a great brother-in-law.
That's right. He keeps on bringing across a few wines that we get to taste, and we were at his house one winter night. He set up a fire pit. He was cooking some fantastic food. Him and his wife, and fantastic home cooks, and he brought out a Leeuwin Estate 2020 Prelude Cab Sav. It was from the Prelude Vineyard series.
Yeah.
And Leeuwin Estate, classically a great winery from Margaret River. He was cooking. It was delicious food. He was cooking a miso toothfish. Like a miso cod from what's that famous restaurant?
Nobu.
Nobu.
Yeah, Nobu.
Yes, so exact same recipe, but using toothfish, which is quite a fleshy and moist fish.
Expensive as well, I think.
And expensive fish. I'll again thank you to my brother-in-law for inviting us over for that. But apart from that, the Leeuwin Estate wine, it was really interesting that night. It was a very cold night. We were outside, and initially when I tasted it, I actually didn't like it. I thought it was a fair enough wine, nice ruby color, bit of oak and vanilla. But I felt underwhelmed. It lacked a bit of structure. It lacked a bit of complexity. And I thought, hold on, this doesn't sound like a typical Leeuwin wine.
Yeah.
And at that time, I actually gave it a 6 out of 10 corkscrews. And I went home and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Had the opportunity to come back. They invited us over again about 2 days later for some other home-cooked food. I think it was Vietnamese pho. And he brought it back out because we didn't get to finish it. Yeah. And it was really interesting. It's like it opened it up. There was so much more complexity, so much more flavor to it. And I increased the rating. I increased from a 6 to a 7 out of 10. Yeah. But that kind of goes to show that moments change your experience on a wine. Yeah. Maybe it was the cold weather. Yeah. Maybe it needed more oxygen. Maybe it was just the occasion, and I'd had too many wines before that. But 7 out of 10 from my lasting impression with Leeuwin. Highly recommend it.
So does it mean if you leave it for longer, become 8 out of 10? Do you leave it for like 10 days? It'll be 9 out of 10.
Well, based on the other episodes that we've done, 3 to 5 days, you don't want to leave it longer than that.
And also, where do we find this brother-in-law?
It's a secret. I don't want anyone to know about him because great wine, great food, great person. So absolutely. So that was my wine of the week.
Fantastic. So on to today's episode. So today, it's a very special, I think, evening in terms of doing a vertical tasting of Chateau Giscours. So I think this is the first one we've ever properly done, and to kind of kick it off, we could do it with some real kind of proper wines as well.
Yes, and so it's special for two reasons. I think one, this is probably the first vertical that we've done. And also to have this kind of wine, I've never tasted or experienced it. I think, have you visited the chateau before?
I think I have actually. I know this is Bordeaux, but I actually don't recall actually going to Chateau Giscours.
Right. Yeah. So it's special, and the ages that we're having here is fantastic.
Yeah, so today we got the 03, 05, 09 Chateau Giscours. But before I go into the details for each of those ones, I want to take a step back and talk about Bordeaux as a whole. So for people who don't know, Bordeaux is in the southwest of France, and generally they're kind of classified in terms of the left bank wines or the right bank wines. It's a left of the Gironde River, I think, and then the right of the Gironde River. So for the left, it's generally more Cabernet Sauvignon dominant. So, and on the right, it's more Merlot dominant. So when I talk about dominant, it means that basically all Bordeaux blends. Yep. So you have the Cab Sav with a bit of Merlot with a bit of a Petit Verdot. But to that point, you know, I kind of speak about the Bordeaux wines, which allows them to actually create a bit more of the kind of character around what the style is, around that year, and also that chateau. Maybe rather than being completely reliant on the grapes that they had to. So it's a bit of chemistry and a bit of art to it, which I also kind of love as well. So what we're going to also do is with a vertical tasting, I looked into what we should be getting out of a vertical tasting as well. So for vertical tasting, the three things they're looking to get out of it is, one, look at how each of the year's climates has affected the wine. So one might have been a hot year, one might have been a cool year, one might have had lots of rain or hail, and just see how that's also affected the wine. Two, you know, the producer might have changed how they would have produced the wines in terms of methods,
yes,
and how they do it. And then the third one was around just looking at the evolution of wine in terms of age as well. So going from 03 to 05 to 09, you know, that's like probably 03, 20 years ago, right, they were looking back at, and just see how the wine has evolved in terms of over time.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack and a lot of different factors, and you purely can't go on age.
Yeah.
You can't say that the oldest wine in here will actually
Yeah.
taste the best, because like you said, maybe the year, maybe that
Yeah.
vintage had some poor environmental factors.
Yeah, so we're going to go into it, and as I kind of go through each one, what I also try to look at is trying to do research of that year. So we probably start from the oldest, 03, to the 05, then to the 09. So for the 03, as you kind of we go through the process.
That's interesting, because I actually thought it was the reverse. I thought you go with the youngest because the oldest tend to be the more special. But okay, this is the process. Great.
Okay, so we'll go with the 03. So the 03 was, I looked at ratings for each of the years. So there's you can go to a few websites and kind of rate the years out of 100, and it could be like 90 out of 100, 95 out of 100. So in terms of rating for 2003, it was 95 out of 100.
Great score. Yes,
it's a great score, but I'm gonna talk about the other years actually better than what 2003
exciting.
was. So 2003 was a scorched, hot, dry growing season with torrid temperatures that remained sky high through the day and the night, and there's no respite from the intense dry heat, and it seldom cooled down. So it was a really hot year. So what we probably look from this one is a very hot, dry vintage, quite big, but also because of that, probably didn't have the acid kind of carry it through in terms of the age. So maybe going towards the end of its drinkability window. But let's try this one on the nose. On the nose and on the mouth.
Got it. And did you just want to hold it up for those that are viewing on YouTube and online to see what bottle we're talking about? So this is a 2003, and just so I can play back what you were saying there, because it was so hot, the grapes would ripen a lot more, which means more sugar, less acid, and because of that, the age that it can last would be a bit
also
shorter.
A lot of the younger vines also didn't survive as well because of the heat. Actually came through, so less grapes as well during that year.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see. And for each of the years, also just like putting some bit of general knowledge in terms of what's happened in that year as well. So 2003 was the year that Ronaldo made his Manchester United debut as well. So Ronaldo.
It feels like so long ago. All right.
He's still playing, so it's not that long ago, but it is like 20 years ago that he started his debut.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So let's go on site then. And I'm just looking at the others all close to each other. So I feel like with age, you can kind of tell because of the slightly orange or rusty tinge around it, and you can certainly see that here. Any other colours?
I noticed that the tannins have really kind of started to break down as well, and starting to look a bit more kind of clear, kind of compared to the 05 and 09. So
I didn't know that. So tannins can block out the light a bit more. Is that how it works?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it kind of breaks down. I know the same with age wine sounded a little bit more kind of orangey brown. I think I see that now with this one.
Yes, absolutely.
So on the nose,
give it a swirl. And swirl.
Think?
Your reaction when you.
What do you think? What do you think?
Let me smell it.
Each person to their own, though. Remember.
Yeah, that's right. And when I think of aged wine, I do think about the other flavors. So it's not about the fruity flavors that are coming out, but to me, I get mushroom, I get a hint of the graphite in there.
Yeah, it's a hint of graphite, hint of the shiitake, but the fruit still seems to be there as well.
Cherry, darker
Yeah.
darker fruits as well.
Yeah. Just try and drink it.
It's very distinct to any of the newer wines that you'd have, because I think those other flavors and those other scents actually stand out more. As Trent's given it a taste, what are you tasting?
The tannins are still there. Import 03. It's still on the tongue, but it's kind of like it is smooth, and it's still kind of holding its own. And the fruit's coming through, and then coming through the back is those kind of tertiary aromas that kind of spoke about around those kind of shiitake mushrooms. And this is really one of those kind of interesting wines. I think with aged wines, it's developing. It's still developing. So I only opened these ones probably about an hour ago. But again, as we can open it to what you said around your Leeuwin estate wine, it keeps on developing as well.
Needs more time on it.
But the length on it still carries, right? Which is pretty good for a 20-year-old wine.
20 years old.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is it's the oldest of the wines that we're tasting today, but you feel that it could still do with a bit more time is the way I see it, because you mentioned tannins. The alcohol I feel is still present there. It's not as fruity, and we had a few wines earlier today. The fruit flavors doesn't really stand out, but
it's mellowed down, and it's really that kind of savory, earthy kind of rustic, but smooth rustic type of flavors to it. That you can just drink by itself. You don't need food. It's like a good, how they had the wine sometimes that you say, I need food with it. This one you can just drink by itself and just feels nice.
Yeah, I think about. What I think about is the flavor is still quite bold, almost to the extent like some of our Aussie Shirazes, where the flavor's strong, but it actually it's actually also mellow at the same time. I don't know how to describe that. I'm kind of relating it back to your Pixels example, where it's a 1080p. It's still quite smooth in flavor, but you absolutely feel the impact of the flavor at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know. We still got another 2 wines to go, but would you put a rating on it now?
If it's okay, let's save it to the end, because I do want to see the 3 against each other. That's so interesting for 20 years old.
That's beautiful.
Ronaldo. Okay,
next one is the 2005. So the product of another hot, dry growing season from start to finish, but the conditions were perfect. The Bordeaux wine remains a contender for the finest vintage from Bordeaux in modern times, although the title could now pass to the 2009 Bordeaux, which we're having a bit later. Okay. Yeah, so it got 94 points in decanter, this one. It talks about a powerful wine, rich, full, with the tannins there. And this is more of that kind of masculine wine, if they kind of talk to it. So, again, let's...
Strong, bold flavors you're assuming with that. And so decanter gave this a slightly lower score at 94.
No, sorry. The year was 98 out of 100. The score for the wine was 94 out of 100.
Yeah, okay. And the previous 03 was a 95, is what I recall. Right. Okay, so slightly lower.
So this should be, again, we should take the ratings that people put in kind of articles with a grain of salt.
Yes.
But, we can take
each to their own, yes.
So let's have a look at this one.
Looking at the colour.
So not as browny and orange as the first one.
Yeah.
Even with only 2 years on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is still quite a bit more purple to it. And on the nose, I'm very excited. What an opportunity, thanks. Yeah,
it's less of that kind of tertiary colours. It's definitely still quite savoury, still quite bright, but again, it has same producer, same type of grapes. Yeah,
I think it still has some sort of mushroom scent to it, but it's not
prevalent,
as strong as the 03, and it's only 2 years difference. I still get a stronger scent of the fruit flavors within this within
did you
the
know
bouquet.
also what happened in 2005 as well? My piece of general knowledge.
I'm trying to think if you had a special milestone, but I don't think it's about you. What is it? What happened in 2005?
It's the year that YouTube was founded.
Wow.
Yeah. Do you know what YouTube is now?
Is that YouTube? I feel like YouTube's been around forever, but
2005 is the year. So cheers to YouTube.
Cheers. What a way to celebrate it. Okay, and so after smelling it, so let's give it a taste as Trent gives it a go.
Wow.
Can I just say, like, if I'm just looking at the 03 and 02 and 03 and 05, purely based on scent, I enjoy the scent of this more than the 03. I don't know why, but it's my personal preference. What's the flavor I like? I know you just had a taste of it, and your word was wow.
Because the power is still there. 18 years old now. I feel like that graphite's more prevalent in this one coming through. But I know I use the word a lot of the time, but the complexity of it, the different layers of the different flavors that come through.
Yes. Yeah, even on the finish as I'm having it, and I'm giving you a look like, oh, hold on. Someone got the score wrong is the way I see it. That's delicious. And I'm thinking about the finish. I'm thinking about the tannins.
Yeah.
The tannins are absolutely present but enjoyable.
It's like those kind of silky, dusty, high def tannins, right? It's
The
kind of
high
like
def.
high def.
It's not 1080p, it's 4K. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's kind of like dissolved, melted down, integrated, and it's coming together as one. It's a bit wanky to kind of say that, but this is a very nice wine, right?
Yeah, I can feel the tannins on the bottom of my lip.
And there's something different about aged wine to a new wine as well.
Yep.
I know it's always sometimes hard to kind of hold on to those wines for so long, especially like 20 years, 18, 15.
But this is why it's a special occasion.
Yeah.
Like, thank you so much for opening these up. This is fantastic. And I'm thinking about the dryness in my mouth as well. That feeling of saliva, I just want to have more is kind of, I've actually finished the glass that I've poured because I've enjoyed it so much.
I feel sometimes even that, you have the wines, you should be kind of like maybe do some food and wine pairing. These are the wines that you kind of just want to just sit and just have the wine by itself and not have it kind of distracted with anything else going on and just have it. And this is the perfect kind of scenario, just with a mate, enjoying wines, talking about wines, and just enjoying it, right?
Yes.
No pretentiousness, no bullshit. It's just enjoying the wine.
Yeah, that's the feeling I get. Like, I don't need to put in any fancy descriptors.
Yeah.
Am I enjoying it? Absolutely enjoying it. And I think about, you always talk about what you like, wines that make you think.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here and I'm going, what's happened? Like, what's going on? Why do I enjoy this so much? I'm still trying to process it, but I can tell absolutely which I prefer. Okay.
We got to keep moving on.
Let's go.
Okay, we've gone from 2003 to 2005, now we're at 2009. Okay. So this is, what's that? Do your maths. Was it 15 years ago? Is that about that? No? 14 years ago?
14 years.
40 years
Close,
ago?
close
40 years ago? I've had a few drinks now, so bear with me. So the 2009 was giving a 97 out of 100 rating for that year. It talks about being lush, rich, and beautifully polished. Perfect combination of warm and sunny days, cool nights was one of the keys to the success of the 2009 Bordeaux. Okay. The 2009 Bordeaux wine is the sexiest and most opulent vintage. Wow. And in 2009, Barack Obama became the 44th president of the United States.
We've mentioned Barack Obama a couple of times on this podcast.
He's
done a lot in 2009, it looks like.
Yeah, maybe even created this beautiful wine. Okay, let's do it. On the site, what are you seeing?
Yeah, on the side, I mean, it is darker than all of them, and I think that's expected.
That's the great thing about this vertical tasting as well. You can look at the color. change from the 03 to the 0509 right in front of you.
Yes. You can see what age does to the wine itself. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a reflection on how much you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so I had a cheeky sniff while you were going through it. And
what are you thinking?
And I'm thinking about, you recently said this to me, that you can taste the stem, or you can smell the stem in the wine.
The herbaceousness of it,
which translates to the herbaceousness.
Yeah.
And that's what I get the moment I smell this. It's actually more herbaceous than the others.
Yeah.
Less of that mushroom flavor in my mind. Oh. But rosemary, sage, etc. is what comes through straight away. Yeah.
You know, we talk about those intoxicating kind of smells. You know, you just kind of like keep on smelling it.
Yes. The perfume that you need to bottle, man. The smell is intoxicating. And so Trent's had a taste of it. It's super exciting. I want to know what you're saying. I'm going to have a taste while you talk through it.
Okay, so from the 05 to 09, the power's still there, but it's a bit more brighter. The fruit's more there. It's actually a nice balance now in terms of that kind of aging, and also the fruits coming into play. The tannins are silky smooth. I think for the 05, the tannins did kind of hit you when you kind of first had it, but then kind of mellowed down. This one, you actually feel like it just, like it's like velvet, as it's that kind of goes.
Yeah, I think that the tannins play a strong part of this tasting for me. In the 09, the tannins, the way I'm describing it is like they're continuously doing some tap dance on my mouth, on my tongue, etc. Like they're there, they're present. They're not smashing it. It's a light dance, and it's enjoyable.
So when we talked about the kind of sexy vintage, you know, silky, smooth.
Silky smooth. Okay.
So it's like yeah, I like it. I think it's great, but I think you can still actually age it for a few more years, and then start to develop even more of those tertiary flavors, and it's gonna be even better. Like give another 5 years maybe, and then we'll have it again in 2028, and then see how it is.
2028, when we're on our walking sticks.
Not quite.
Yeah. Look, it's interesting that you say that, because when I first tasted it, I felt it was still a young wine.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, it's 2015, 2016 or something to that effect. Yeah. Which is really interesting. So over time, let's see where it goes.
Because remember 14 years ago, this is before we had kids as well. So that's been amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't Barack Obama. Who was before Barack? Was it Bill Clinton? I don't know.
Bush, wasn't it?
It was. Let's not talk about that. But it's super delicious and still super enjoyable. You can tell, to me, if I compare the 03 to the 09, you can tell the balance, the swing in scent and flavor, moving away from the savory mushroom flavor.
Yeah.
This has a bit more fruit towards it. But overall, the tannins are still 4K 1080p.
Yeah.
It's still a smooth and enjoyable ride. You think this one... What was the score from Decanter in this one?
For this one, it was 94 points, same as 2005.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought they were saying that this could be even better.
But this is a better year, but in terms of the wine, but also depends on when they actually did the tasting as well. They did the tasting thing in 2021, so about 2 years ago. But again, it keeps on developing as well as we go through it.
I know my favorite. I can tell straight away.
Yeah.
And you could tell based on the reaction. Shall we jump into Corkscrew ratings?
Yeah, you go first.
Yeah. So if I was to rank all of them, I would actually say 05 is number one. Really enjoyed the 05. I found it hard to describe it, to be honest. But to me that means there's such a balance across everything, the flavors, the tannins, the feel, etc. I'd put 05 number one. So I would give that... I've never given a score higher than 8. I would give that a 9 out of 10 in my mind.
What's perfection, Jason?
Yeah, we need to do a 10 out of 10 corkscrew at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know, but 9 out of 10 corkscrews is what I would put that. Really delicious. It's not just fruit. It was the mix of savory flavors. It was the mushroom. The tannins were beautiful.
Yeah.
After that, I would do the 09. 09 feels like it still has a bit more time on it, but I really enjoyed the herbaceousness of it. And then I'd do the 03. And you said at the start that the 03 was a challenging year. Maybe that's what's that's what's kind of translating through it. But so I'd give a 9 for the 2005.
Yeah.
I'd give a 8 for the 2009, and I'd give the 03 was still pretty nice. But just purely because I want to show this difference between that, I'd give a 7 for the 2003 corkscrews. What about you? How would you rate them? I'm interested.
I actually agreed with you in terms of that range. Okay. Like the 05 being number 1, 09 being number 2, and then the 03 being number 3.
Yes.
The reason why I think the 05 is in the perfect drinking window at the moment. Because the 09, I think it'll be still quite spectacular, but given a few more years, it'll start to develop that kind of more kind of tertiary flavors come through to it. And then it's going to give even a bit more complexity to what we're actually seeing today. But you can see from what it has then in terms of base, it's still beautiful wine.
Delicious.
Like for the 05, like it kind of left me a bit speechless.
Right.
Which is like always a sign of good wine, right? Or the one that kind of brought you a smile to your face without saying anything. It's just in your eyes.
Absolutely. Like the first time you met your wife.
Exactly.
All right, yeah.
So if I had to put a rating on it, it's pretty damn good.
Are you... I thought you were going to give it a 10. Let me hear it. What is your corkscrew?
Let's just say it. Okay, 10 for the 05, 9 for the 09, and 8 for the 03.
Wow.
Let's do that.
So perfection is what you're throwing out there. Everyone, if you can get a hand on the 05, my goodness, it's a 10 out of 10.
It's pretty amazing. Like I'm sure there's much more amazing wines that I can't afford at the moment. But in terms of what I can afford and what I can see, what I can taste, it's something that I'll remember.
Yeah, and I'm remembering this tasting, to be honest. But you touched on price, and some people are a bit funny about price. I always want to give listeners an indication of what these bottles could be going for. Would you know what kind of prices these are? I
wouldn't know. I bought them so long ago.
Yeah.
That I actually don't know what the price.
Yeah.
But when I did buy them, I know I bought them as that current vintage, which means it would have been cheaper at that point in time.
Yes.
And the lucky thing is that I've kind of like kept them in cellar, and I kind of forgotten about them until only recently. They go, okay, I got these wines, let's try them, and then that's the best way to do it, right? Because they actually know about them, then you start drinking them. But now it's been there for 20 years, 18 years, 14 years. It's spectacular.
Well, I'm always thinking about, and this is what they say, how can you put a price on perfection? And a 10 out of 10, pay what you want. You get to enjoy it. Look, Trent, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the opportunity to try this.
It's a pleasure.
I know this is a rare occasion, and to try it with you and have these aged bottles across 3 different years and vintages is such an opportunity. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
I think the other thing is like, for me, it's like I could always drink this by myself, but that would have been just, boring, right?
Yes.
The purpose of wines is also bring people together.
Yeah.
And, I love it that I can share that passion with you and you're enjoying these wines today. And it's just, this is happy, right? Happy.
It's happy.
It's happy.
I'm super happy. No, that's fantastic. And so that is our first vertical. And to do it on this kind of occasion with these Bordeaux wines, wow, what a special occasion. Was there any last words that you wanted to say to our listeners about this?
I think you should do something similar if you get the chance as well. If you can, different vintages. It doesn't have to be like 20 years old. It could be like 5, 3, 1 year old. And just look at the differences between vintages and do that research as well in terms of how the weather, climate, and the producer will actually affect the wine through those different years. It's just interesting to kind of see how it has changed.
Yes, I agree. If you're trying to understand more about wine, and we're still very early in our wine journey, nothing beats trying to compare the same wine, the same producer, same region across different years, because that really shows you the art that's required to make a beautiful wine. And it's not always easy. You gotta challenge yourself with the different weather events and so forth. But it's been a great experience. Really appreciate it again.
Yeah.
And so that's us for this episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as we say here in the wind up, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all.